From Washington, D.C., Radio Free D.C. with G. Gordon Liddy.
It is I, G. Gordon, the G-Man. Mrs. Liddy has insisted that I take a little time off for Christmas and New Year's, so we'll be gone for a few days, and I thought it appropriate to listen to my listeners who have been writing in, calling in, and asking that we repeat certain key segments of Radio Free DC, ones that they missed, ones that they want an opportunity to tape, and we are going to do that. This is the encore presentation of Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show. And it is I, G. Gordon, and this is Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show. And in this hour, we have a special guest, and this promises to be a lot of fun, and I'll tell you why. When I was an FBI agent, we used to sit around in the common room where we all gathered and typed out our reports and things of that sort. And in the police squad rooms, we'd be down there. And one of the things that cops and FBI agents and everything do is sit around and tell war stories. You know, true things that have actually happened, which are usually much more fantastic than anything you could imagine in a novel, and hilariously funny. And our guest is Ed Nowicki, and he's sort of a cop's cop. This is a guy who became a sworn police officer before he was old enough to buy his own revolver, and his dad had to buy it for him. And he's been a sworn police officer ever since, and he's gone all the way through the ranks right up to chief of police, and he really knows what it's like to be a cop. And he's written a book that is published by my publisher, by the way, which is St. Martin's Press, and it's called True Blue, True Stories About Real Cops. It says no punches pulled, no apologies made, and it is really, really good. I mean, in a sense, you've almost, to realize how he has hit the nail right on the head, you have to be either a cop yourself or a former cop, but that does not mean that you will not be entertained by this book. It is terrific. And joining us now is Ed Nowicki, the police officer I'm speaking about. Ed, are you there, sir?
I sure am, Mr. Liddy.
And you know what I'm talking about, how we all sit around and try to top each other with our war stories, don't you?
Absolutely. It's the name of the game.
That's right.
Frequently when we're done, we bend our elbows with a couple of beers and tell these stories.
That's right. We may embellish a little bit, but essentially they're true. Am I right?
Absolutely. They're expanded upon, and depending on how many beers you've had, it depends on how much you expand them. But in essence, the bottom line is they really happen. And really, no doubt about it, the truth really is much stranger than fiction.
It sure is. How did you get the idea to write such a book? I mean, in retrospect, you say, wow, yeah, of course, and why didn't I think of that? But you did, and it's just gotten tremendous praise.
Well, I'll tell you, what happened was I've always been a bit of a storyteller. I get together with some of my buddies, and we'll sit around and flap at the jaws a little bit, and the stuff starts to flow a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they told me that the stories, we ought to put these together. And then some of the people that I know that weren't in law enforcement, I told them some of the stories, and they were really fascinated. And so for years, I wanted to do, I had the thought about it, but I really never did anything about it. And then one day I said, I'm going to do something. So I put them together, and I put 30 of them together in True Blue. And the comments I got from the cops have been great, but the comments from the citizens were really surprising. I didn't know how well it would be received, and to be honest, I'm just tickled the way it's been received.
Yeah, it has been tremendously successful, and that is because I think whether you're a police officer or not, true humor is everybody's favorite. I'll tell you what. You tell me one of your war stories, and I'll tell you one of mine. We'll get this thing going, and then we'll bring in the audience. Ed, go ahead. Tell one of your favorites, and then I'll tell you one of mine.
One of my favorites here, I like a story I call The Case of the Ripe Banana.
Okay.
And it's a short one in the book where we had one of our officers that I worked with was an aficionado of the ladies. He was a real ladies' man, visioned himself as...
I can relate to that.
Oh, yeah. As God's gift to women. And this guy was, I think his role in life was to conquer the female population of the earth, and he was making a darn good impact from what I understand. But anyway, he was supposed to meet one lady after one of Chicago's nasty snowstorms one evening, and she called up, and a bunch of us, we were in the narcotics unit in Chicago, said, well, he can't make it. Well, we end up sending him over there to the bar to meet her. Well, we send him to a gay bar.
Oh,
and the thing was, he didn't know it. Well, we keep the guy in the bar. And I'll cut to the chase a little bit on this, because the bantering that I don't believe is radio is quite the medium for some of
no, there's some words that we aren't allowed to say here.
I understand that, and I understand protocol, but we kept him in there for about 4 or 5 hours. We kept on calling back there and saying that, you know, she's on her way, her car broke down, she's stuck in traffic, and every time somebody talked to the bartender, said, listen, this is our friend of ours. He's just coming out of the closet. Can you warm up with him a little bit? And people are asking him to dance, and he's just and we're stringing him along. So if you're a good bass fisherman, you'd probably enjoy the case of the ripe banana. And he was not a happy camper about this either.
Oh man, I'll tell you one time. You know, a lot of these stories come from, because you're presented with a problem, and you come up with a rather not in the book solution for it. And one time I was in the I was in the Denver field division, on the bricks, an agent down there, and we only had one guy in all the state of Wyoming, and he was overwhelmed with work. So they said, go on up there and help him, to get his caseload down. So I went up there, and I said, okay, I'm here to help, whatever you want to do. And he said, I've got one here, I don't know what to do about it. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, well, we got this fugitive, and, all our informers tell us that, he's up here, and they don't know where he is, but they say he either is in this whorehouse or they know where he is and can tell us. But, of course, I've gone up there, and they won't give me the time of day at the whorehouse. By the way, this whorehouse had been there for 100 years, and it was like 200 yards just south of the police station. But at any rate, we're talking the Wild West here, and we're talking 35 years ago. And so I said, all right. So what we did was we got a rucksack, and we painted that, and we got a stick and some stuff, and made a phony microphone, and we put an aircraft landing lamp in the spotlight, for the bureau car, and we painted like a KAYX or something on the side of this thing, and we waited. And there was I saw in the newspaper that night that there was a high school wrestling championship that was going to be in town, and high school wrestling teams from all over the state of Wyoming were there. And I figured, okay, as soon as they can put the kids to bed, the coaches are all going to be down here at the whorehouse. So sure enough, along came a station wagon, and it's loaded with wrestling coaches, and they pull up in front of the whorehouse, and we hit them with this dazzling aircraft landing light. They're blinded and everything, and they can't really see. All they can see is what looks like a television crew. And I said, good morning, good evening, gentlemen. Joe Blow from K1AX, so on and so forth. And we're doing a story on this whorehouse. And we want to know, first of all, if you'll identify yourself and tell our listeners why you prefer this whorehouse to other available whorehouses. Well, of course, they all scream, jump back in the car, and there. She said, okay, if I tell you, will you get the hell out of here? And so she fingered where he was, and we got the fugitive. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that cops do, and that civilians really don't realize.
The law works in mysterious
ways. If most of the best ways of getting a job done are not in the manual, I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you, that's what they call moxie, Mr. Liddy. You got to have that. You develop that after a while. You got to get the job done. The bottom line's the bottom line.
That's right. I'll tell you. I'll confess to another thing. I got busted for burglary with Watergate, but I would love to have $1 for every time, like when I had a fugitive and I knew there was a relative, and they aren't going to give you the time of day as to where this guy is, but I figured, there might be postcards and things like that he might have sent. I just wait till they're gone. I just go in the house, search the place, find the mail, postcard, write it down, and I'd attribute it to one of my best informants.
Yeah.
And then we'd send out the lead to go bust this guy.
Well, sometimes you do things to get things done, and I look back at it too, and during my career, and successful police officers and FBI agents and anybody involved in law enforcement, if you're going to be effective, you've got to stick with the spirit, not the letter, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. Now, there's a story that's in your book which is absolutely hilarious. It's going to be a little difficult to tell, so let's substitute the word crap for the S word, which we're not allowed to use. And remember the crap burglar? That story. Now let's see if we can tell that one and not get put off the air, because that is hysterical. And then I'll tell you a story that's similar to that.
Well,
all right.
A couple of guys I know, they had in a suburb of Chicago, they were having a burglary, and it was strange. The MO was that the perpetrator left a pile of crap on the table, on the dining room table, and that was and stuff that was taken was like jewelry.
You ought to
and
see our
money.
lunchroom around here, by the way.
I've been in a few restaurants where that would have been an improvement. And anyway, that was his MO. Well, they narrowed it down through some, I'd like to say some good police work, but maybe it was good police work. They narrowed it down to it was the paper boy. It seemed like everybody that had a burglary had the paper delivered by this particular paper boy, so they were pretty sure it was him. So they contact Mama. Mama brings Junior into the police station, and they say they want to talk with Junior. The thing was, Junior was bordering on genius IQ level, a smart kid, and a lot of burglars start off with leaving crap on the table. That's maybe the sign of an early sex offender. And so anyway, you had a potential sex offender, you got a definite burglar. They bring him in, and he's cocky about it. He knows that, no way are you going to get me, and I'm too smart for you dumb cops, and really kind of arrogant about it. So they play the good cop, bad cop.
Sure.
And you do that. It works. We make a little joke of it on TV, but it's done all the time, and it's still being done.
Absolutely.
And the good cop said, well, listen, I'm trying to help you, fess up, tell us what it is. And kids know he's hard about it. He's not saying a word. So the bad cop says, listen, I got this bucket, and we want you to take a crap in the bucket. And the kid kind of looks at him and, why you want to why should I do that? He's a little worried now. And we'll get down to it. A little of the bantering's in there going on, too. But the bottom line was they tell Junior that they took the pile of crap, froze it, and sent it to the lab. And so, well, why, what's the importance of that? And they said, listen, Junior, you ever hear of ballistics? And he says, what? He says, we could tell what bullets are fired from what gun. He says, you're going to crap in the bucket, and we're going to see if them bullets are fired from that gun. And needless to say, he was vaccinated with a phonograph needle and told everything. He told him who shot Lincoln, I think.
There you go. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a somewhat similar tale in just a moment, Ed, right after we take these commercial messages. But while we're talking about the subject of commercials, I want to tell you, this book, True Blue, St. Martin's Press, it's a paperback. You can buy it for a bargain at any bookstore, and you owe it to yourself. It's a real treat. And if you're really interested in what goes on and police work, it'll give you, not only is it entertaining, but it'll give you some real insights. True Blue by Ed Nowicki. You can find it because it's black with a big True Blue in blue colors, and there's a Chicago police officer shield there. Pick that book up. Do yourself a favor. We'll be right back.
We have more of the encore presentation.
And we're back here at Radio Free DC with the G. Gordon Liddy Show. In this hour, we are being visited by Ed Nowicki. He's been a police officer from the ground up, right away from a rookie to a chief, and he has written a really, really good book. It is just what we used to call war stories. And most of them are tremendously funny. They're all real interesting. They're real cop stories. These things actually happen. And he's put it all together in a book called True Blue, published by St. Martin's. It's a paperback. It is modestly priced. It is in your bookstores now, and it is really terrific. And I promised, Ed, that I would give you a similar tale to the one you were telling when we last spoke. And this took place in a small town Midwestern police station. they had a situation that normally would call for the use of the polygraph, the so-called lie detector. But, man, I mean, these people didn't have enough money in the budget to buy a broom. I mean, forget buying a polygraph, right? But they needed one, and their suspect was a very ill-educated young guy, pretty stupid, as a matter of fact. And they wanted to see if this guy would cop to the thing. So they told him that they had him for impersonating a human being, fugitive from the Board of Health, Mopri with intent to creep, and all this kind of stuff. And the guy's, very, very nervous. But he was holding out. No, I don't know what you're talking about, and so on. And they said, okay, we're going to put you on the lie detector. So what they had done, they got an old police radio parts thing, and this goes back, many, many years now. That's when I was on the street, and when you tune the radio, it'd go woo like that, and they had that, and they put that on the thing, and they ran a wire over to a radiator, a steam radiator, and then they had taken a coat hanger wire and they'd undone it, and got it out, and they wrapped that around his arm and then hooked that to the radiator, and then they put duct tape around his chest, so he could hardly breathe, and then they put blankets on him, and they said, and then they start asking him questions, and they'd say, yeah, he's starting to sweat. He said, of course I'm sweating. He said, I'm in this damn blanket, and then they would go woo with the radio, and pretty soon they told him, man, you're dead, you got it, and everything else, and he cops to everything. That's what I would call ingenious.
You mean that's not the way lie detectors work? we had a little we had a similar vein. We were a little more high tech, Mr. Liddy. We gave them a phone and we wrapped a cord around their arm. And we used to blink the lights in the other room. So we were high tech.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you were much more advanced than I was, because I go way back to the old days.
That was the first generation of lie detector.
Yeah, there you go. Ed, to get onto a more serious note, I mean, you have been a law enforcement officer, and you've gone all the way to chief, and you are, by the way, the former executive director of the nation's largest law enforcement training association, the prestigious American Society of Law Enforcement Trainers, and you have been testified in a number of cases as an expert on police training, and probably your currently most famous case as you testified on police training in the Rodney King case. Did you know?
Yes, I testified. It was unusual. I testified on behalf of the defense. Originally, I was going to testify on behalf of the prosecution.
How did that come about? How'd that switch go
I
about?
got contacted by the Department of Justice, by a U.S. Attorney's Office, asked me what I thought of the case, and I saw the 6 to 12 second video clip that probably everybody in America has seen 50 times or more.
Yeah.
And I thought this was just terrible, horrific, and I thought it was racism and brutality at its pinnacle. Mm-hmm. And after seeing this, I was prepared to do what I could to see that justice was served, particularly after these officers were found not guilty in Simi Valley. Mm-hmm. After going to Los Angeles, I was given a very nice treatment by the U.S. Attorney's Office initially. I saw the entire video, which is like 3.5 minutes long, mm-hmm. But however, from where it starts to where Mr. King is under control is about 82 seconds. Mm-hmm. After seeing the entire video and knowing the complete set of facts and circumstances, I ended up changing my opinion on the case, and there's a lot on this case that the public doesn't know, and this wasn't a case of brutality or racism.
Well, I'd like to know that, because if the public doesn't know, the public should know, because these guys are about to go to jail.
You're going to have, and again, I don't think these two officers going to jail, I don't think they were heroes, but I'll tell you, they weren't criminals. They're victims, if anything else. And what we have right now, we had a case of politics at its worst and justice at its worst. And I think that's a conclusion, Ed, and obviously the things that you know that we don't know is what led you to that conclusion. Could you share those things with us? When you look at the case prior to this, Mr. King led the officers on a high-speed pursuit, and the speeds is supposedly in excess of 115 miles an hour. I kind of doubt that. I think that would almost be a commercial for Hyundai Motor Company. I don't know if you can get a Hyundai up to 115. Well, needless to say, they end up getting in a pursuit. Other officers joined in. There were two other people in the car, which I didn't know at the time. Both of those people were taken out of the car with relatively little incident. One of them might have got pushed with a flashlight when he got up to look, but that really isn't that big of a deal. And finally, finally, Mr. King was unresponsive. Finally got out of the car. When he did get out of the car after repeated commands, he wouldn't comply. He finally got on the ground. And this is undisputed facts. This is what was told to me by the prosecution. 4 officers approached him, one on each arm, one on each leg. Mr. King is like 6'3" to 6'4". At the time of the incident, somewhere between 260 to 280 pounds, and really buffed out from pumping iron when he was in prison. And he was really buffed out. Well, he threw the 4 officers off of him like rag dolls. Sergeant Kuhn arrived, shot a taser into him, hit him with 50,000 volts of electricity. He was covered with sweat. King was covered with sweat. Well, sweat is salt water, which is a good conductor of electricity.
Right.
Hit the taser. Taser had relatively little effect, few grimaces and guttural noises. Hit him with a second charge of 50,000 volts, fired a taser into him again. That brought King to the ground. And this was unknown to me. And you could see this when you look at the entire video. Then the video now is turned on. Now, the video is turned on. It shows King getting up off the ground and attacking the officers. And I never seen that before. There were, when you look at it, they were striking him in the legs, striking him in the arms. His head injuries, medical experts testified, were consistent with injuries from hitting the ground after he was tasered, not from being struck with the baton, the type of injuries he sustained in the face. In the legs, in the arms, you see the officers stop their striking when you look at it. King complies. His arms are out to the side. All of a sudden, he starts bringing his arms in, and the officers start hitting him again. We have here an unsearched felony suspect that is non-responsive and non-cooperative that can take 2 surges of 50,000 volts of electricity, threw 4 officers off of his back and got up and attacked them. And this gave me a whole different light. After I told the Justice Department attorneys that I could not testify, I was hushed out of there. And I was just really appalled at the conduct of the government, lying to the judge about me, told him they shared secret information. They lied to the judge. They told Judge Davies that they retained me. They never retained me. I told them that I could not testify in good conscience, and I was given the bum's rush, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
this is and again, people can believe what they want. I've been there, and I've been in situations, and I know the way things are. The only thing that really makes me angry is that I wish the people knew the entire incident. Then you can make your own decision, good, bad, or indifferent. If you see it all, then you can make an informed decision. What we had was cloaking of the First Amendment, and by selectively reporting news, we had news being created, no longer reported.
Yeah, okay, well, that's not the first time that's happened, and unfortunately, probably won't be the last time, Ed.
Absolutely.
Ed, are you up to taking some calls from some of our listeners?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you got the the phones all lighted up here like the proverbial Christmas tree. And first up from Sacramento, California, is Cheryl. Cheryl, you're on Radio Free DC.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl.
Gentlemen, listen. I think that your stories of the cops are great, but I have one even better for you. I happen to be a victim of a crime. What happened is my ex drugged me, videotaped us having sex, etc. When I went to grand jury, the investigating officer comes up to me and he says, "Oh, gee, you don't look like your person in the tapes." Subsequently, at another hearing, the guy from the Board of Medical Quality Assurance comes up to me and says, "Well, I guess he didn't get your good side. Did you lose weight or something?" Now, it's just absolutely unconscionable that these police officers would be, coming up to a person who's been victimized and saying crap like that and laughing about it. I mean, it's like, I've turned into a porno queen.
Yeah,
an inadvertent porno queen, of course, but
yeah, they I tell you, they should not have approached you about that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have to admit happens is that whenever there's evidence like that, just about everybody in the department most of the time gets to see it.
Everybody in the department. And when I said to the judge, I said to him, "Well, geez, can't you keep these people from seeing this stuff? It's like you're invading my privacy also." They said, "Oh, well, it's evidence." It's evidence, but what about the rights of the victim? What about my right to privacy?
Yeah.
You bring something up, but when you talk about it, when you deal with the underbelly of human nature, the body of society where you put the enema tube in law enforcement, you develop the gallows humor. And unfortunately, some people are the brunt of that, and it does happen. It is unfortunate, really. But sometimes in law enforcement, you see the nasty things. You got to try to keep, even people in the news business, they're the same way. It happens in anybody that deals with human nature at its worst. You got to
Well,
try
I'm in the medical profession.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but we at least give the patients the respect.
I understand.
Pretending like we're not talking about them. I mean, these people don't even have the cool to pretend like they're not making a judgment or talking about it.
That sounds like bad taste, no doubt about it. I'm agreeing with you on this one.
If these are the kinds of stories that are passed around, I question the police. Actually, I used to be a police fan, but now, after this, there's no justice. The criminal has all the rights, and the victims continually get victimized, even by the police.
Well, that was definitely ungenuinely behavior. There's no question about that. And you do have a legitimate complaint about that, Cheryl.
Well, what can I do about it?
Nothing, right? Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything you can do about it. It's and another thing that people sometimes don't realize. Let's say that someone sues another person for libel or slander, and says that as a result of the, what was said or done, my reputation is damaged. When you do that, you put everything about your life into play. They can go back to when you're 3 years old, practically, and put anything negative in there because you said your reputation is damaged. So then the other side can show anything that has any bearing whatsoever on your reputation.
Believe me, I know, because I'm not suing this person civilly simply for that reason.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, first of all, I couldn't work in the medical community anymore, but all of a sudden, I'm a bad guy. Here he is. He has all the rights, and I haven't done anything wrong. The only thing I did wrong was love the wrong person.
Yeah, well, many a person is guilty of that. Yep. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
God bless you, Cheryl. All right, we're speaking of something that is not funny. These blasted commercial messages are coming back, but then we'll have more with Ed Nowicki. And we're back here on Radio Free DC with the G. Gordon Liddy Show with our special guest, Ed Nowicki, police officer from the ground up all the way to police chief, with a terrifically funny book, True Blue, True Stories About Real Cops, St. Mark. It's a paperback. It's available in any one of the stores that you would normally find books. And by the way, Ed, we've just had a fax. The green room, that's the squad for the Houston PD Robbery Division, just checks in, says, we're listening. We don't have any time to chat or participate, but we're listening. And
he calls.
Yes, indeed. And I suspect an awful lot of others on. And amongst those listening from Chicago, Illinois, is someone you may recognize. It's Pat. Pat, you're on Radio Free DC.
I do, Mr. Liddy. Really enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
But my real question is, not question, actually, just to talk to Ed. My name is Pat Jones, Ed. About 18 years ago, I was with the county police.
Bonehead Jones.
I rode with your unit for about 2 months on a Lend-Lease agreement. I was with the MEG unit, Metropolitan Enforcement Group. I remember a couple of interesting times we had. I hear you laughing.
Pat, I remember absolutely. You're follically deprived, are you not?
I am now. I'm definitely follically deprived.
Okay.
I think you guys are. You ought to see me.
But I hope this one isn't in your book, because I don't want to spoil it for the rest of the readers. But I do remember we had a couple of raids to go on, a couple of search warrants to execute. And for some reason, Chicago was not able to supply us with a car that day. And what ended up was that we ended up taking a CTA bus to the raid, executed the search warrant, made the arrest, called for a wagon, recovered the narcotics, and then ended up taking the CTA bus back downtown so that we could book them. I remember I forgot who was carrying the shopping bag. It was very sophisticated equipment, the shopping bag that carried the narcotics, and one of us was carrying the sledgehammer over our shoulder.
I remember that. That'll be in the second version.
Well, I was incredulous that we couldn't have a car, but they felt, I guess we were doing we were doing our job anyway. So.
You do what you got to do with tight budgets.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
But I remember it, Pat, and I remember you well. It's probably been 18 years.
Oh, a good 18 years. I retired in '89, but still remember and have a lot of good memories.
I tell you, once when I was a real young agent, and I just started. I was about 27 years old, and I was in this resident agency. There was only 7 of us there, and so we had all kinds of things. There was an older guy who he was a good agent, real good agent, but he took himself very, very seriously. And they used to have things that we would get and we would send back, to the office. And if there was special interest by the bureau on it, it'd have a pink tag with a big black letters that said "special" right on it. And one time I saw this guy's hat just sitting there, so I just took a special tag and I stuck it in the ribbon of his hat, just as a comment on, like lighten up a little bit. And that night, I came back in from work, and this guy's just steaming around the office. He's ready to kill. And I was wondering what the hell he is. He said, "Fine, got him." And I said, "Well, what's the matter?" He said, "I just interviewed one of our top communists," he says, "and this guy kept asking me what's so special about me. I kept saying nothing special about me, except I'm a special agent." And he said, "I come back and I find I've got this flippin' sign stuck in my hat all the time. I'm talking to this top communist. If I find out who did it, I'm going to kill him."
Well, as that old saying goes, there are 8 million stories out there. I look forward to reading your book, Ed.
Good
and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thanks a bunch. Really.
All right, thank you, Ed. Oh, boy.
We used to, with the FBI, we used to leave our new narcotics detectives, we always left them messages to call Mr. Erskine at the FBI.
Oh, gee. Well, what we would do, we would get these, people would come in with things that really don't have anything to do with law enforcement. One time we had this woman came in, and she said, "I want you to arrest my husband." And I said, "Well, why should we do that?" And she took her thumb, she had her thing, and she got her thumb, and she pointed it at her rear end, and she kept and made a jabbing motion at her rear end. She says, "He keeps giving me this." And I said, "Well, madam, this does not happen to be within the investigative jurisdiction of the FBI. That is a matter for the county sheriff's office." So we sent her to the sheriff's. I found out the sheriff's then sent her to the local police. The police sent her to the state police. I don't know if she ever did get anybody to bust her husband.
To me, that sounded right off the top of my head like an FBI job. Mr. Liddy.
That was an FBI job. Oh, God. Oh, well, let's see. We got up next from Stafford, Virginia, is Dwayne. Dwayne, you're on Radio Free DC.
Mr. Liddy, hello. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Dwayne.
I'd like to tell you that I'm not a big fan of a lot of felons that I run into as a patrol officer, but I thank you for everything you've done for the country.
Well, thank you, sir.
And, Ed, anybody who's been able to survive as many years as you have in police work and accept the pay rate, I appreciate that, too. I'd like to tell you a quick story, and then get off and allow you to accept other calls. I was on a routine patrol when I noticed a vehicle that was stopped on the highway where I work at. And I got behind the vehicle, and it began to speed away, and I got in pursuit of it. And when the driver got out of the vehicle after stopping and ran, I chased him on foot and lost him in a wooded area, and was very tired and very upset that he had run from me, to the point where I got my car keys out of my pocket and started jingling them. We had set up a perimeter where we knew he was somewhere in the woods, and pretty tired, probably laying down somewhere. Walked into the woods, grabbed the keys, and started jingling them. And I had gotten the keys out of my pocket. When I did that, I just said, "Heel, boy, heel. Stop, boy." And the guy stood up, said, "Please don't let him bite me. Don't let him bite me." And then we made the arrest on him.
That's pretty good.
It was kind of funny because he was a felon behind the wheel. He also had outstanding DWI warrants where I had charged him a year previous to making the traffic stop for a DWI. And when the warrant came down and I saw my name and I had arrested him a year earlier, I asked him if he knew who I was, and he stated no, and I showed him the warrant, and I just told him happy anniversary.
Did you guys hear about there was this big black fellow on an elevator, and there were a couple of white women there, and he had a Doberman pincer or something with him on the elevator, and the Doberman pincer started nosing around, and he said, "Sit!" And both white women sat down.
Well, you know what? The barking dog, a cop from Georgia told me he carries a recording and of dogs barking, and when he loses somebody, he puts it out over his PA system, and he says that brings him right in. It's a high-tech world we live in.
I heard that story from L.A. The suspect was fleeing from him. He couldn't catch him, so he got over the PA and started barking like a dog.
This guy from Georgia, he carries a recording. He's got the real thing.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Liddy.
Oh, you're welcome, Dwayne. Thanks so much for calling. Okay, up next from, let's see, Toms River, New Jersey, is Nelson. Nelson?
Hi, Mr. Liddy. It's an honor to be able to speak with you, sir.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you. To you and your guest, good afternoon. And I only joined you about 15 minutes ago, so if you heard this, you'll have to correct me. But first, let me tell you that you've heard of the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Well, there's some of us that are retired that still worship the statute of limitations, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Have you heard the copy machine story yet?
There's a lot of them out. I don't know whether I heard yours.
Okay, very quickly, we had a guy we brought in one night, questioned him for a while, and he wouldn't go for anything. One of the lads had ensconced in his locker a blood pressure cuff and the tubing and the bulbs and so on. We took that and put it on his arm and then made like it was hooked up to the copy machine and took a piece of paper and typed on it the words, "He's lying," and put it in the copy machine. Well, when we questioned this guy and he'd answer us, all we'd do is hit the button on the copy machine and of course the paper would come out, "He's lying."
That's the best one yet.
You give him a rap, you're lying, But you can't do that with a rocket scientist.
No, that's true.
With some of the troglodytes, it worked real well.
That's right. That's a beauty. I love that one.
This is American ingenuity, I'll tell you.
I must tell you very quickly that my two sons and I have read your book so much that we wore it out. And, in fact, it was this afternoon that I went down and ordered another copy of Will. So we wanted to tell you how much we enjoyed your book and how very much we appreciate you and your guests.
Well, thank you, Nelson. And I'll tell you, you'll wear out another book, too. It's called True Blue, and that's the one that Ed Nowicki's got out now. It's a paperback. It's published by St. Martin, and it's just loaded with these cop stories. I mean, they're just hilarious, and they're really good.